I do when
Hi, we're just going to wait for Alinka to join us. She might be looking out here right now.
Oh.
Hey, you got it. We did it. Yeah, I thought that you would be a great person to speak with because one, coming from outside in here the last couple of years and building something new up here in the city. And also from the club perspective, because last week I spoke with the artist who's mostly performance, and so like a singer-songwriter, so in kind of traditional kind of venues or clubs playing out. I thought that would be a good perspective also to find out how the club world and the DJs that are working in there are being affected, as well as like the producers, since you're a producer, also how you're doing that, managing that, being creative in your house. First, describe yourself, like who you are and where you're from, and then we can kind of get over the biography and go into some questions about life.
I'm Alinka, so I was born in Kiev in Ukraine, and then our family relocated to Chicago in 1988. So I grew up mostly in Chicago, and now I've been in Berlin. It will be 5 years in November.
Wow, 5 years, okay.
It went by very quickly.
Okay.
I mostly make house music. I think I started producing around 2003. I've been DJing since 2000. And yeah, I have a label called Twirl with Sean J. Wright. And I just started a second label called Fantasy Life.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, in the middle of Corona. So.
Yeah, in the middle of Corona. Yeah, I saw that at the end when I got your bio like that at the end, because I didn't know about actually the label part. I knew about the record, the new one you're putting out, but I didn't know it was a label. And I was like, wow, okay, we have to find out like did that come about, like after having one label, and then like was Fantasy Life put out for this new album yourself, or?
I like Twirl is more of a joint effort, and it's for us to support our friends and artists that we believe in, and kind of and Fantasy Life. It's just something that came about. I mean, I had the concept years ago because I went to this Warhol exhibit and saw the fantasy "Love is Better Than Reality Love," and initially I was going to call it Fantasy Love, but that was taken, and I was like, actually, this applies to life. And for me, my own experience, that kind of really makes sense, because you have these different layers of the music industry, as you know, with like social media, real life, and often it doesn't seem that real. And I don't know, I wanted something that's like super creative, that has a visual aspect to it, and I wanted to work with my designer friend and kind of. So yeah, but basically Fantasy Life is just my solo stuff is going on there for now.
Okay, great.
I'm sure it'll develop into something else, but for now it's going to be a couple EPs and an album and stuff like that. So Twirl is still our main like thing for the other artists.
Where if we talk about Twirl, maybe Sean J. Wright, he is located not in Berlin though.
He's in Chicago.
He's still in Chicago. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So
now he's in Chicago again.
Okay, and how is that? Like working like across the country right now, or across the ocean country?
I'm a lot. It's a lot of like, I miss you. I wish we were together. Working wise, it's fine. I mean, we communicate a lot. Like, I think musically, we did so much for years that it got to a point anyway where both of us wanted to do our solo stuff as well as work together. We'll never really stop collaborating and stuff, and we have a label, but it was a good time to kind of pause and also work on solo projects and stuff. And, we still work kind of through the internet and stuff, and are still operating just fine. But obviously when you're in the same city, it's a bit easier to get together a few times a week.
Of course.
But we did that for so many years. I think it was totally fine.
And it's good to have your 1 foot in Chicago still, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with the company.
I mean, Sean's great. He's a Smart Bar resident now and working a gramophone, and like, it's just amazing what he's doing as well. And he started producing on his own, and yeah, it's been really nice. Obviously, I love him to death. So
yeah, and I saw that. Yeah, speaking of Smart Bar, that was it like 2001 or what was that? Yeah, 2001. You started to do something there.
So I was the opening resident for Justin Long for his Party Up Leap.
Yeah.
For like 8 years or something crazy. I mean, he started the party right around my 21st birthday, so
Oh, cool.
like right
Nice.
when I was allowed to legally get in finally.
Mm-hmm.
I got
Yeah.
to DJ there, and I think a lot of my skills like just developed from opening that party. I was still learning
Yeah.
techniques. I mean, I was a baby. I only started in 2000, so yeah, it was like fresh
Oh, yeah. Okay.
to the fire, and
Mm-hmm.
you had to force yourself to really like practice all the time and develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also I also was in Chicago many years too. So for like my last home is Chicago, and so when I saw that, it was like, yeah, okay, smart bar, because I used to I worked for, I don't know how long it was, but I worked in the as a toilet like girl, the girl in the bathroom with like all the
Yeah. In Smart.
tampons, yes, tampons and deodorants, but that was before your time.
Yeah.
I worked, I'm trying to think of what years it was, but I was also quite young, and I was really fortunate to be able to kind of experience those early days of Smart Bar, and because I
Yeah.
was always going to shows at Metro,
Hmm.
and the kind of the live scene was always my thing. But I was really happy that like to get into Smart Bar, especially in the beginning years, and kind of like really experience this kind of club
Yeah.
building up, and also what was going on, the vibe there, and it was, yeah, it was
That's
very interesting.
it's part of how I started. I mean, I passed out flyers when I was like 20, outside the clubs. I did
Yeah,
every
good
job. I did
memory.
the door. I did guest list. I've done coat check. I did kind of like anything that let me get in for free and
Did you give tampons to people?
never tampons to people, but I mean, I've literally done, I think, like every job. I just wanted to kind of be in the scene. And I think also when you do every job in the club, you kind of,
Yeah.
it humbles you in a different way. You know how you should act towards everybody, every person in the crowd, and every staff member. I think you have to kind of, do that to appreciate it and get that system of
Mm,
respect in and how to behave as an artist, because I think
that's true.
everyone's equally important.
Yeah,
But
actually,
yeah,
that's a good point. I haven't looked at it like that in that perspective, but I would say like, yeah, that's how my step into the music business was exactly like, like
yeah,
from doing that job to yeah, of course, working behind bars, behind sitting at doors for entrance ways, doing
yeah.
coat check, and I did everything as well. Um, and of course, yeah, you really learn and
Mhm.
actually see how a place like that operates, and I think you can appreciate it, which a lot of people, I think sometimes it makes me angry because I do know so much, and I feel that when people come in and they're like, oh, they roll their eyes about an entry, and it's like, do you know what's like the machine
Yeah,
behind this that's going on? Like not only the artist on the stage, there's like every single person here is like this, for one evening becomes this one machine moving, and it has a lot of
right.
people to feed, and it's like very important to the whole experience, I think, how it works, and
Yeah.
everybody gets something out of that when they leave a club or a show, a live show, or whatever it is they're going to do.
And I
It's
think
really
you have
important to
to,
remember that.
I think you have to learn that like you have no idea who you're talking to or where they'll be in 5 or 10 years, and or
That's
if
true.
you treat people like garbage, they'll definitely remember that. And even
Hmm.
like when I first started passing out flyers, the guy that passed out flyers with me went on to throw events and then eventually owned React Presents that sold to Live Nation
Oh,
for
cool.
an obscene amount of money. But like,
Oh, nice.
I mean, people remember the way that you treat them. I think that's a good lesson of like how
Of
to
the
be. Of
music business, yeah. That's true.
course, I mean, yeah. Even like how you treat opening DJs, they might be the headliner that might be booking you in 3 or 4 years. You never know. You should.
That's true. Yeah.
So good that we had that upbringing.
Yeah, that's true. The way that no college can give us. That's for sure. Um, so you said you were born in Kiev, I think, and moved to Chicago though. But how old were you when you moved to Chicago? Were you already a
8 years
kid?
old. Yeah.
Also, so you really kind of, that was your more formative years then, were in Chicago when you moved there.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I still remember the whole thing because I think it was so crazy, like moving and
dramatic, yeah.
countries. And we lived in Vienna in between as well for like 8 months.
Oh wow, okay.
But yeah, I mean, growing up, obviously, I remember Chicago a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember like seeing one of your posts about going to Kiev, and that was was it one of your first times you played there? And that kind of like
Yeah,
was a really
December.
emotional experience to do that, kind of
Yeah,
be there as
December
a
was the
DJ.
first time I'd been back since '88 to go
Wow,
play
okay, that's a long time.
this
Yeah.
club, and it had just opened. And actually, the club is like so unbelievably amazing. I was already
Hmm.
like so excited to play them when they gave me a tour, but yeah, I was super emotional. I mean, I like both times I played there, I was crying in the middle of my set.
Oh God,
I
super. Yeah.
loved the people, and it was just so like full circle, like
Yeah.
so appreciative, and to see this music and how far it's reached, and that it brought me back home is really great.
Do you think like being in Berlin is kind of like gives you that base that you can go to do more? Like, I mean, maybe I guess the question was like, what is that why you came from Chicago to Berlin? Was it for
Yeah,
these
I mean,
reasons?
I kind of felt like personally I needed a change, and I couldn't grow as a person or just in my career as well to where I wanted to be. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I think it makes it more accessible like for traveling, and I think this scene and this music, it's obviously great back home and it came from there, but like it's here there's a lot more shows, and I think a lot more opportunities for someone up and coming like me. And yeah, I mean, I kind of fell in love with Berlin. It felt like Chicago. It felt like home the second that I came here. And it was nice to have
Nice.
more of a community of people. I met so many people for the week that I came that I like came home and bought a flight and moved 5 months later.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I was ready to leave for many years. I was saving money for like
Yeah.
5, 6 years. So it was
Yeah.
kind of, it was just, I didn't know where I wanted to go. And it was between New York and LA. And I never felt like I found that place until I came here.
Hmm.
But I mean, it has been that. Like, I've traveled to places I didn't even know I would ever go to in my life, like
Of
Beirut
course.
and Macedonia, and just
Mm.
amazing places where I've made friends, and it's been
Great.
pretty magical. And I don't mind the short flights. Like, I'm old and my back
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
mean, you know, in
It's
the
a,
US, like every flight is a long haul
that's
flight. Even
true.
like
That's
Chicago
true.
to New York is like over 2 hours, and
That's true. Yeah.
that's the shortest one that I remember taking. So
All right. Okay. Yeah. And I guess a little bit also maybe some things will change now in the near future. And that's like things
yeah,
I'm thinking about also like about how this whole world, like how we're going to do this now, like
I don't know.
yeah, how the movement will happen. Are we going to be, is everyone going to be taking, DJs going to be taking the train now and taking 2 days to get there? Are we going
Yeah,
to, like what's going to be the new, it's all those, there's just this one way of just transportation is one way and movement is
yeah,
one way, but there's like so many things that I think like will be interesting questions for us all that work in the music business, especially in the live side or the club side, what will be happening, which I really hope that we take the chance to maybe change things that need to be changed and kind
yeah,
of try to prove things for everybody. And then also, yeah, like just kind of like see what things can be problematic, how we can still keep it alive and going, that everybody can actually, live on what they're doing, because that's like,
yeah,
I mean, in this time period, like to look at like, okay, like we've always, I think in the music business, since we've worked in there long enough and you've done all those jobs like we talked about, and like kind of live from sometimes from like week to week, like even because you don't have a regular income. So like how that really affects so many things that you're doing. And when we've kind of prepared ourselves for a really rough life anyway,
yeah,
but I think we didn't really prepare ourselves for nothing, like not for no income. And then like,
yeah,
this is like a big challenge for everybody, not only in the music business, but other businesses definitely are affected, or the clubs, like the club that I do shows at, like, worrying about like their survival, and all the people that are involved there, and like it just multiplies, and you kind of like get a little dizzy at the end of the day if you start thinking too much. And I try to be positive right now and think about really like positive things that we can do, and what I can
right.
do now, and what we can do to change things. And I think like that is going to take like some like people sitting together on the table, like artists and club owners and promoters and everybody kind of sitting together and talking about that stuff openly, because we're all affected by it. We all have lived from this pie anyway.
Yeah.
And so, like, how are we all going to make it come back again and stronger and hopefully better in the future, you know? So those are like...
I think in many ways it already was not so sustainable long term. I mean, it was like a little bit, there's things that we can take away from this. Like, I think having more revenue streams for musicians.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, something I realized is like I rely 100% on like live gigs. Then I mean, I make a little bit of money on production, but it's not even like close to enough to live off of, because I've always had like the DJ gigs. I've never really worried about streaming and things like this, and things I should be thinking about more. And that's something I realized as, you know, a label owner as well, and as a producer, of just finding other ways to kind of make a living.
Yeah.
That's so dependent on live shows. But yeah, I mean, that's something for the industry to look into also, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that. Yeah, I'm right now at a conference, A2IM in New York, because I was in New York, and I think that's kind of like will be the topics of a lot of the companies, because there are a lot of doing with the whole digital side of the business, which that's the reason I'm taking part in it, because I don't know so much about it, and I want to try to learn myself how to give advice also for that, like, because hasn't been my side of the business. Anything to do with like the label distribution now, like everything now digitally that's happening, and also how to kind of deal with all that data and content and how to place it properly. And I think that I would like to learn as much as I can in order to give some advice as well, because I realize that like that's the way of the future, and understanding all that and all the, like, you know, whether it's blockchain or whatever, and it's all kind of scary to think about me trying to have to learn about these new things. But I think without technology, I don't see, like, I have to keep my place and my position and in the music aside, even though live is more of my business. I think that we need to all kind of have an awareness of like what that all means, because it is all interconnected in the end. And I believe that like wanting each part to kind of make sense and to give a kind of more holistic kind of like look at it, like everything is connected, that we all kind of can survive on it. And find out how that is possible. And this is, I think, where, you know, because I have been more of an advocate for the artists, and I think to do that, you know, we have to educate ourselves a little bit right now and figure out how to do that. I mean, I luckily have good colleagues that kind of know about that, and I will also learn from them, but also like doing kind of events, which, you know, sometimes can be difficult. Like right now, I've never been to a conference totally online. So I'm also like, whoa, okay. And then it's quite interesting, but and a little bit even as tiring as it probably is a normal conference when you're running around and trying to figure out things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to you. What did I write down? I had some question about also like a difference. What I wanted to know, like how you saw the differences in the club scenes also between Chicago and here, and also I guess Europe and the US in general. Like
well, to start, you have to be 21 to go to clubs.
That's true. Age difference.
When I was starting to DJ, we still had like Sonic Boom, and when I was in my younger teens, like we had B96 was playing like DJ Funk and Casimir and this kind of stuff, and I don't think, I mean, I'm totally probably wrong. I don't know because I'm not there, but there's small radio stations and stuff. But I think it's just not as accessible. Like I think underground music, I think EDM is, of course, because it's all the radio. But underground music, you kind of learn through knowing other people that educate you, or going off on your own once you get introduced to it. I mean, even myself, I was listening to like Fatboy Slim and Chemical Brothers and all that.
Okay, yeah.
And then Daft Punk, and kind of eased into it, but I forgot what the question was. I just
more like like a look at the between Chicago and Berlin, and also Europe and US as far as the.
Yeah, I mean, I think Berlin is also quite different because the clubs are really free and open, and I think people are ready for any kind of music here, and you have a lot of tourism here just for nightlife.
That's true, yeah.
And like, you know, in the US as well, the clubs are amazing, but I think it's a smaller, more niche thing to go to the really cool underground parties and stuff. They exist and they're incredible, and the talent level is amazing, but I think now, I mean, I guess the same in Europe. It's just a bit like there's more of it. You know, there's a bit more. There's like, I mean, Berlin alone has, I don't know, how many clubs.
Yeah, I imagine that when you live in Berlin, your idea about nightlife is a little skewed because it is so different than most cities.
I joked when I moved here, I was like, this is the first place where like my cat's doctor, my dentist, my accountant, everybody's like, can I get on the list at Berghain? And they like asked me about playing Panorama Bar, where back home it was like, if you told people you're a DJ and it was just like regular people, they would be like, do you play weddings or bar mitzvahs? And they had like literally no idea what you're talking about. And it was, you know, I think here, especially the last years, it's like the music's on the radio. You find, I mean, you know it from when you're 13. You can go to parties, you can go to clubs when you're younger. So I think it's a bit like people are more used to it here. They grow up with it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So like you have younger audiences that they're already like way ahead of their time. They know everything about, like, I'm still like, oh, what, the internet? They're already doing like other platforms and other genres and stuff that we don't know about. I mean, that's a good thing worldwide, but I mean, that's the main thing that I think is the difference between the U.S.
Would you say it's also about respect for the job, like considering you more of an artist here than just somebody doing, like you said, like bar mitzvah is a wedding? That sounds more like a service, you know, like, and I think like here,
think
like
more of an understanding for the craft here, and for, I mean, I don't want to say this the wrong way. It's like, obviously with people that are involved in the industry, it's equal, but like for normal people that have no idea, like if you stop someone in the street in the US versus like in Europe, chances are they would probably know at least, like, I don't know the right way to word this, but yeah, there's a level of respect because it's a bit more normalized, and I think people grow up with the music and they know what it is, and you know, in Berlin, like, nightlife is such a big part of the city and of the culture and of tourism that you do have that kind of like, I don't have to feel bad about my job feeling, where like you didn't finish school to be a musician. And for me, that was very validating. Like, I think I needed that in my life because of my own experiences to kind of push ahead and push forward and want to be full time and kind of like see where I can take it. Because when you see that it's like, this is an actual job and you will be respected, I think that makes a massive difference in your confidence as well.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe that like is a good time now to talk about like being, okay, you're here now, you're in Berlin, and you're like, I don't know when you started the process of making your album. It's probably been like throughout this whole year, but like at what point did you realize, okay, this is the box I'm in, doing this at the end?
The album?
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of like sketched ideas for the last 3 years. I just never actually was like, I think with an album, there's so many albums coming out, and not to knock anyone's albums, but I feel like for me, if I do an album, I don't want it to be 3 EPs or something that I just threw together because I finished a collection of tracks. Like, I feel like I need to put a lot more thought into it, and it's kind of like, even with the label, I didn't want to release the first release until I knew those were the exact tracks that I wanted on the label. And so with the album, it's kind of the same. I just want to keep sketching ideas until I have together exactly what I want to put forward. But this is like, I don't know, albums, I understand bands now and why they take years to do it, because I feel like it's such a process to really do it right and get yourself across the way that you want, where like each EP could be totally different, and singles are a bit easier to write. And I think with an album, you have to show your range, and you have to do a lot more
That's
than
true. Yeah.
slapping the tracks together. So I don't know when I'll finish, but you know, I mean, I have the sketches in my mind of what I want, and like the vocalists I want to work with and stuff like that. So it's in the process started, but you know.
Okay. And you do everything right now, like it's you have a home studio, so you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Like what? Like you have not been. It's not been stunted by Corona so much. Like or
I mean,
no.
I've always worked from home. It's like I've thought about renting a studio, but the thing is, I'm so used to just being able to wake up and be creative, like on the
Okay.
fly. If I get an idea, I can go in and like record a vocal or do whatever, which happens all the time. And I think for me, with like the lack of time, and if I had to go somewhere to like every time I had an idea, I would probably freak out and never get any music done. So
Mm.
I like I like having everything there. I mean, I need a bigger space now. It's turned into like, I sleep in my recording studio
Oh,
kind of.
okay. Yeah. You
Like
just
the
can't
bed
smoke
is
in
in my
there, right?
75% of the room is now my studio, and then
Okay.
I
That's
sleep
a,
in there. But it's nice. I mean, I enjoy it. It's nice to have everything. But yeah, I mean, I do a lot of like voice notes on my phone also, and
okay.
I have a little thing I can play keys and get ideas in, and I email myself.
Okay. Cool.
I sample stuff on the iPhone.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I was that. Yeah. That was like my next question is like, what is the process like of doing that? Because of like I mean, I know like when I speak with somebody like last week with Martha Rose about like okay, she's like a singer or a songwriter, so they have like a certain process too. Like okay, like you said, she wakes up in the middle of the night and writes down some lyrics, or like yeah, like on the phone, like okay, when she's walking down the street, like okay, I hear a pattern of sound. Is that it's like a similar process for you, like when you're producing? Good.
Yeah, I mean, it was different when Sean and I would sit down, we would just start writing from scratch. And I think it was either like I would write music to his vocals or he would start writing lyrics to something that I had started. Now it's different sometimes. Like I've sampled a lot of films and things when I've been stuck watching all of Netflix.
Okay.
Just like
Yeah.
sampling vocals on my phone and sending myself the sample off like the voice recorder off iPhone and then starting a track from there.
Oh.
Uh, I've done that quite a bit actually. I think they're all about to come out, like all those Netflix sampled records.
Great.
But no, I mean, usually I just sit down and start writing and see what happens. There's not like I can never, I've learned my failed process is like having an idea of what I want to make and then trying to make it. I
Yeah.
never managed to do that ever.
Yeah.
I usually just get stuck until I'm frustrated enough and start something totally different. But
Yeah.
if I just sit down and like start being creative, then it kind of happens on its own.
Oh, cool. Nice.
That's the usual
That's
process of winging everything.
that's winging it, yeah.
Yeah.
And has there been any positives? Aside, we talked about some negatives of the whole pandemic. What's been some positives in
Uh,
your life right now?
I think before all this, and especially since I left like my day job to be full time, I think, and I just said this in an interview, like you spend so much time comparing yourself or thinking like I should be doing more, I don't have enough shows, or my life is over, I'm going to run out of money and get deported, and like you just have constant anxiety of
Mm-hmm.
survival. But then when this happened, it was kind of like, okay, well now nobody has any gigs,
Yeah. No.
and we're all in the same boat, and you know it feels a bit like community, but somehow you realize that if you thought it was stressful before when you had a ton of gigs, and you kind of realize how lucky you had it and how
Yeah.
great everything was, and um, that really like you should just be grateful for all of it and take your time and actually be present. And I think that was like the biggest lesson, and I actually feel more calm about my
That's
music
good.
career now when everything is
Stop.
insane
It's kind of still, yeah.
than before, because I think I almost needed that like shock to the system to kind of appreciate the what I was doing and understanding that you know everything's okay. I don't know if that makes
Yeah, I know I had I have similar process. I mean, I was very, I think, lame for like first weeks because I also had this like I was looking at everybody else what they were doing and it's like I can't do anything. You know, I also have a kid so who was didn't wasn't at kindergarten and I was here, we were here together and all day long, and there was no possibility at all. And then I saw everybody's, oh, they're like learning to bake bread. They're like, doing this. They're learning, I don't know, they're doing all these things. You were one of those people. Yeah. Like, everyone was doing this stuff, and I was like, I can't even do that. Like, I was like, I can't, what's going on? But then once I kind of like, after the first month ended, and they kind of said, like, I kind of realized that this is a long haul here. Like,
Yeah.
I somehow got acceptance of it.
Yeah.
And I think then I was able to put away this kind of, like, whatever you said, like this kind of energy of like what I thought I had to be doing and couldn't do, and freaking out about everything, and how am I going to survive, how the other people are going to survive, like all that stuff became like, take a deep breath, calm down, like, you can only do what you can do right now, and you can try to do, in that process, you can also try to help other people. And that's when I kind of like started to say, like, when the whole process of the sore floor tilth and stuff that happened in Berlin started going on, like, I knew some people, so I was like, okay, as soon as I know information, I try to pass it on and try to get it out there so that people can actually, like, get some help. And that's my job, and that's what I can do, but I can't do it at full time, and I can't have my like full schedule of artists who I want to talk to every day, because I just can't manage that. When my kid was here, he just started kindergarten a couple weeks ago, so now I have a day, like actually a few hours in a day where I'm like actually can think again, like straight through, and start actually a really work process, and so that makes a difference. But yeah, like this is just something totally, like, I think so many people, and you say like this shock kind of like moment of being shocked, like button, and like, okay, and then what happens now? And that's when I really tried to be like more positive and more, kind of just thinking about what's my possibilities, and maybe actually afterwards, like I said, like thinking about what can we change, what can be better afterwards, and not be only negative about everything right now. So you were making bread and stuff, huh?
Yeah. I mean, someone just posted a funny meme. There's 3 stages of quarantine: 1, depression; 2, bread; and 3, revolution. I think it's like pretty accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's like that's a good point. The next thing, revolution, I guess, like right now we didn't expect that this would also happen in the last weeks as well. I got frozen again. You there? Yeah. Yeah. This whole
No.
revolution. This is like, what is happening now. It is in those phases. It's amazing. Like, how we've had to be able to switch now everything from like a very personal space to kind of like, okay, we're all in it together, to like, like this now. And now it's kind of like really, I felt for the first time that I wanted to now be in the States so much that haven't actually, during the whole Corona side, I was like, God, thank God I'm here. Thank God I'm in Berlin right now. And then when this whole Black Lives Matter started happening, I was like, I wish I was there. I wish I could be on the streets there, because that's where it matters, right now. And I know we can do something from here too, and that's what I think is good. But yeah, like, how have you been able to kind of like also feel a part of that, what's happening right now in the States, like as far as like being there with friends and talking to them and understanding. I mean, we can all understand it from our perspective as much as possible, but really being there and feeling this kind of like what should have happened a long time ago, actually. Like I feel like why now? But it was this point that was no longer, that couldn't stop. Once this happened, it was possible that we couldn't be silent. Nobody can be silent anymore about this.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is like, you need to have the conversation even, and you can't be silent. Like, it's not enough to just be a decent person or say that you're not this way, because it's be vocal and platform. Yeah.
Also, like, I see that like in the going into the club world or the music world again, we have to make sure that we carry that back then to with us, you know, because I know like beforehand it was also, you know, between the whole, you know, what's happening at the door, the door policies, what's happening in clubs, like what artists are getting actually put on stage, and that's not only, that's like from every kind of I would say most, like between all people that are not up there, that are not white men, basically on the stage and behind the scenes, like to encourage more visibility for everybody, and also acceptance, and also not this kind of bringing what's happening on the streets right now into also that workplace as well, and making it more like reflecting what actually reality should be like everywhere, you know, and like
and I think
just hoping
people need to be aware, even like it's just, we need to be more conscious of these things that are happening. And to keep having the conversation even when, you know, the protests are done. It's still like, I don't think they'll ever, like, we need to keep talking about it and keep making changes, because that's the only way that it can actually have an effect and you know, be the way that it should, I think.
Yeah, I think that kind of brings us to like learning how to be like citizens, first of all, again, like what does that mean? Because there's so many people, like, I mean, the education that we had in the States, and as far as like what is government, what is my responsibility as a citizen, it was very, depending on where you went to school, different and varied. I mean, every school system there, quite different. I was lucky to go, well, not lucky, but I moved around a lot, I would say. So I went to very many different school systems, and I saw this drastic comparison from, you know, a suburb school to a inner city Chicago school to like a small town in the middle of, like, you know, nowhere. And so I've seen it all, and I went to all those, and I really it's no surprise to me that we are so like not on the same page in a lot of ways, because of this, just education in general, I think has to change a lot. And I find that although we see it here happening as well, I believe that's probably could be partially as well a problem, although I find it to be a little bit less. More people are, their education is more, at least usually on the same level, depending on what they're being taught. But I mean, it's like problematic here. It's not only education; has a lot of different factors in it. Yeah, it's definitely We'll see what's going to happen, and I'm like happy to be in the here and be able to do something about it as far as we can do everything, and to continue helping musicians on the side I can here. Do you have anything you would like to say, or like anything that's going on? Is there anything you want to promote? Anybody you want to say, hey, listen to this, or do this, or I've read this, or whatever you think could be helpful for anybody out there?
I'm trying to think. There was a guy on Twitter, I can't remember, it's a journalist, and he published kind of a guide for artists to contact writers here, and just tips on how to get your music heard without, you know, the help of PR, and kind of on your own, and what they're looking for. That was up yesterday. I can send you a link to it because I can't remember. I think it was Sean Ronaldo, the guy. That was really great. And yeah, I mean, I've been trying to kind of navigate through the Spotify artist accounts and see what opportunities they have, and they have some pretty good guides and for artists as well. What else? Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've learned throughout this as a creative person that has to kind of keep making things is, at first I wanted to work as much as possible, and it felt really like at one point I'm just forcing it because emotionally and mentally I'm not, really in a place where I can be creative. And I think that you have to give yourself a break and know that it's okay, because it is like a stressful and weird time. And
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm back to it and it's fine, but I think it's a good time to like really learn about yourself as an artist as well, and figure out where you want to go after all this and what direction you want to go in. And as a producer, I think it's a good time for exploring other genres, and
That's
like
right.
I want to write for film and TV now and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at this as an experience to learn from, and not just like a negative thing where our lives are disrupted. Because I think, for me personally, when my life was disrupted in 2012, I found like house music again and I started DJing, and I kind of like needed that shock to my system of what happened in my life for me to get my shit together and kind of live in the moment and get things done. And maybe this will be that for a lot of people, I think, because there's certain unhealthy like behaviors and patterns in our own lives and careers that I think when you take away all the pressure and the way that, like I said, all the pressure as an artist and comparing yourself and all these things, you can learn a lot from it. I think like finding new revenue streams, not just that, but really like finding a balance of what's healthy and what isn't, and growing from it. But I think there's good lessons and to be learned, and we're all going to come out stronger whether we like it or not, because now it's like survival mode for everyone.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think it's important to really like take, I don't know how to, oh my God, I've lost my sense of, but like really rely on your community and, be more in touch with people that perhaps you don't always speak with, and kind of find more resources. And I think everyone is home and everyone is, available. Like I would love to mentor people, mail me to talk about music or just advice or whatever. I think a lot of artists are that way. And, it's a good time to kind of progress and to learn how to be better.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my advice is take advantage of what we've been given, which is time. And I think that's the most valuable asset. And maybe
That's
this
true.
like pause is a good pause that you need to have to kind of figure stuff out, and to learn and to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that, and also the idea that about time is a gift in a way, because we have always kind of like, we never know. I think when
Yeah.
I think that hecticness that we feel we cause ourselves, as well as like trying to like deal with what's coming from outside, but also internally, and looking around and being like, oh, okay, how am I going to do this? I've got to make sure that they're doing this, so I've got to do that too. And I think it is makes sense to also think about, as you said, to maybe figure out who you can help, look around you. Like you especially as artists, you have skills. We know you can help somebody else, or we can do more collaborations. You can find a way to be more supportive to each other, and as well as like breaking these normal models of way do we do business with each other, at least like with
Yeah.
artists, we creative people, and saying, okay, how can we trade our skills, or whereas maybe one's going back to kind of that idea of like, okay, I'm graphic designer in my part time, and I need to learn. I would like to learn some production skills, or you know anything that you can like find a way to that's some kind of equivalent to, that you feel that you're able to kind of share with each other in a way which is maybe
Yeah.
fruitful, and not like feeling like, because I think we feel so all the time like, I'm totally up for artists not, I've been fighting for the fact that artists are not doing a job for nothing for somebody
Yeah.
else. Like this is like one thing I'm fighting for all the time, and I'm telling the artists like, hey, like try to find a way that because once you show that that's where you're standing, the respect comes in some way, shape, or form. And I've
Yeah.
learned that through my own way of learning this through this business. Like, the more that you do for everybody, like just because, and they expect that of you, and they don't like, it's not my hobby. So like, but in
Yeah.
this case, I think there is instances like this, and definitely if you see somebody around you that you see potential in, or that you feel like you could help at a moment where there is a moment of time, and maybe you say, okay, like, can we be human with each other and do that right now? That's a great way to think, and I appreciate that you're that you're open to
Yeah.
that, and because I think, like I did learn also. I didn't go to music business school, and I went to film school. I'm a film school dropout, and doing now I'm working in the music business. So like, I think you can do, if you have a passion for something, you can do anything, and you just have to, learn it as well as you can. That's kind of what Music Pool is here for, like to fill in the gaps of information that people may have not picked up along the way, because who can learn to do everything? You start off on your
Yeah.
own, and you're like, okay, how do I put out an album? What is PR really like? How do I function with social media when I hate being out there all the time? Yeah, like some people just don't, so like all these things like that are important. But like you have to ration what's more important for me, and what fits me as an
Yeah.
artist, because you can't do everything for sure.
And I
So
think that I was just thinking about this, like sometimes, you get older and you complain about younger generations because things are so different now, but really it's like, it's because when I started, you had to go to the record store, and there was no YouTube, and there was no Beatport, and you had to like meet people. And so the older generation, they kind of were the ones that passed it on, and I wouldn't have any knowledge if it wasn't for them. But now it's like you can get anything off a tutorial, but at the same time, you kind of realize, especially like I'm turning 40, all the stuff that you can learn, the technology and whatever, like, of course you can learn everything off YouTube, but like the invaluable things are the community and the people that have those experiences and have
yeah.
the lessons. And I made so many mistakes in 20 years that for me to like sit there and have a conversation with a younger artist is so easy now, just to be like, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. And I think there's no tutorial for that. I think it's really important to keep building a community and keep giving those lessons back, in whatever platform that you can, because it's I think you can hear it in the music when that's missing. And I think our industry kind of has, like, it's overgrown, and that's why it feels like such a rat race, because you miss those relationships,
Yeah,
and you kind
that's
of
true.
that's something I would like to focus on a bit more, because I think it's kind of vital. Like, we can't just sit there and complain that people want to replace us when we've become kind of like replaceable. Not you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah, I know
think
what you mean.
we have to be present, I think,
Yeah.
and coexist.
Oh, I encourage. Is your at the end of the coffee or what? Bitter?
Yeah, I got to the end of the cup, so it was just, I just drank the coffee bean, like the ground coffee. Didn't
Okay.
work out so well,
Okay.
but anyway, now I'm
But yes,
frozen.
so I'd like to just
But
maybe, and but I can still hear you. Yes, so I want to thank you for having a conversation with me today, for having a coffee or drinks with me, and hopefully someday we can see each other
yeah,
like in person. Cool.
yeah, I would love to.
Nice.
Thank you for chatting
Nice,
with me.
nice,
It
yeah.
was fun.
Yes, and good luck with your album. Good luck with Fantasy Life. I'm looking forward to all of that. And
Thank you.
yeah, let's one shout out to Chicago. Everybody, you guys are you sleeping? No, you say you're awake.
They're awake.
So yeah,
And
yeah,
thank
I know,
all that
jump.
tuned in. I miss
Yeah,
you.
good,
Thank
nice,
you.
cool.
I miss
All
you.
right,
All right.
then see you later,
Bye.
and take care.
You
Bye.
too.